Is it live? Cool. Hello to the lovely people of the internet. Thank you. Let me button my shirt. Thank you for stopping by on my channel. My name is Chimso. This is Chimsology, which is the public place where I'm trying to explain slash build my worldview. Um, is there anything else I want to say? Oh, I am an applied philosopher. I take a philosophical approach to the things that we experience as human beings so that we can experience life and enjoy it better, and so that we can help other people to experience life and enjoy it better. Today, we are going to be talking about constraints and beauty amongst other things. So, I have this note in my notes app called Random Beautiful Thoughts, which is basically like just a bunch of like proverbs that I've come up with based on observation and reflection and experience that I've gone through in life. And they're really short, they're proverbs. So they're short sayings or sentences to basically explain profound. It's kind of funny to say something that you wrote is profound, but to explain I would say consistent experiences and observations that I have had in my life that I think communicate a semblance of truth, which again, using that word is ironic if you saw my video on truth, but it's a word that we understand in the context I'm trying to use it in. And I have a bunch in here. This is probably one of my favorite notes that I have because it's just full of little bits of my worldview and my philosophy on life. And so I think just as a video, like to give me inspiration for my videos, I'm just going to be going in here and picking different things from here and trying to explain it a little bit more. So I don't have any notes. I'm literally just going off of whichever ones that I pick, and we go from there. So this one, depending on what the proverb is, some of them it'll just be one sentence, some of them it'll be multiple iterations of the same basic concept because you can't capture it in just one way. This one has multiple iterations, but the primary thing is good things or things that are desirable come out of having constraints. So I'm going to go through all of them. Excuse me, chronically congested. Okay. Beauty lies in the constraints. Wonder lies in the constraints. Excellence lies in the constraints. Mastery lies in the constraints. Purpose lies in the constraints. I feel like I have, oh, and then, yes, I was like, I feel like I have another one specifically on constraints. Art, what you can do with the constraints. Okay. So I'm just going to be going off of the dome. I don't really have many notes to go off of, but let's see where we can get just spitballing. So, okay, where did this proverb come from in my life? I think I don't remember where exactly it came from because it's like multiple different interactions and experiences and observations that I've had. But yeah, I don't know exactly where it came from. I'm genuinely trying to remember because I feel like that would be a helpful place to start. I think it probably came out of an observation slash a reflection on noticing that we as human beings are influenced by certain things, and based on the things that we are exposed to and based on the things that influence us, that is the realm of reality or the realm of human experience under which we live and we exist and we consider things and we think and make decisions and things like that. So I think one of the things I was thinking about was or one of the things I frequently think about is like African context, pre-colonial African context specifically, and an American context growing up in being born and raised in the US. And the things that I'm exposed to that um, are kind of the boundaries within which I exist, but I don't realize that they are the boundaries. I, growing up, you just think like this is just reality because you haven't been exposed to anything else. And within those boundaries of your access to the human experience, a lot of art is like created. A lot of beautiful things come out of that. And I think also reflecting on things like the history of Christian theology, and just seeing how like within certain different constraints, different things are developed and beautiful things come out of it. Oh, excuse me. Um, and then is there something specific that I can think about? So I think like music is probably one of them. There are so many different things. Music, I was gonna say art, but everything is art. Music, fashion, even like career choice, how you approach relationships. But I think specifically music. So growing up, and I think specifically people that want to make and produce music. So growing up as a black person in the United States, and specifically growing up in a black county, PG County, Maryland, the music that the people around me are exposed to is one American pop culture music and hip hop and R&B primarily. And people within that culture, PG County, Maryland, whenever they think about going into music, it's likely going to be either one of these three things or some kind of a mixture of all of them. And the constraint being the location that they grew up in, the people that are around them, and the culture that is being fed to them. And I think time, because Black music is not limited to hip hop and R&B. We have a rich history. We I tend to identify myself as being African specifically over being Black American, but I grew up in the culture, or I grew up around the culture. But so Black people have a rich history of music in the United States: jazz, blues, um, soul, even rock, um, gospel music, just so many different genres. Even I think house music was started by Black people. And so the reason why I said that is because we're also constrained by like the time that we live in to like things that we have access to. Versus like let's say somebody from a black person that lived in pre-colonial Igbo society would be constrained by their culture and their place and their time and the music that they grew up hearing. Which one of the popular there are two popular Igbo instruments. One of them is ogene and another one is it's a whistle. I don't know what the name of the whistle is. Not a whistle, it's a flute. I don't know what the name of the flute is, but they would be constrained by that and other things. I would have to research into it more. So if someone in that culture is like musically inclined, they're going to make music based off of those things that they have been around. And what emerges out of both cultures is beautiful. It's art. It's wonderful. But then the thing that comes to my mind is what would this person produce if they were placed under different constraints? Or even I think and then okay, so this goes to one of the other ones that I was saying. Mastery lies in the constraints. Because to be good at something, you have to constrain yourself to certain things and master those constraints first before you allow yourself to break out of them. So someone learning piano has to understand notes, has to understand scales, has to understand notes, scales. I'm not a musical person. I used to play piano when I was a kid. Like I took piano lessons. Notes, scales, harmonies, all these other things. They have to learn these things and they have to constrain themselves to these things specifically to master it. You have to master the constraints first. You have to stay within the boundary first before you are then allowed to break out of it and try something new. And that's how you get all of these different beautiful art forms um, from piano. You get jazz, you get classical. I don't know anything else. There's just a different way that like different types of people use certain things, but they all have to start from this baseline of understanding what the constraints of this instrument is, and then using those constraints to create something new, to create something beautiful, to express themselves as a human being. But what would that person under a different, let's say, instrumental constraint be like, or under a different art constraint? Like, let's say they weren't, like, they didn't have access to a piano or even any really musical instruments. What kind of, how would they express themselves if they constrain themselves to like visual media or visual art, like painting, drawing, things like that? So those are things like the types of things that I think about. And what happens, what am I trying to say? Like, yeah, basically, what can happen when you dedicate yourself for a period of your life to just choosing a certain set of constraints to master, to understand, to learn, to be very aware of everything that is around that thing. What can happen when you do that? You can create a lot of beauty, you can create a lot of art, um, you can become excellent, um, because you're really focused on this thing and you're not allowing yourself to be distracted by anything else. And I think there's so much to be found within constraints. And I think specifically for like my generation of Americans, Gen Z, because we have so much just like economic freedom. I know that that doesn't sound right, but from an academic economic perspective, what I mean by economic freedom is we have access to so many resources, and there are so many things like available to us just by the virtue of where our economy is and the state of like technological advancement that we grew up in. We just have access to so many things that it can feel hard for my generation to confine ourselves to certain constraints. We feel that it's limiting, that we're not free, that we want to express ourselves. But even the funny thing is, even in having that feeling, we exist within a certain constraint of an ideology within our country, or a certain philosophy of what it means to be a human being in a society within our country. That if we maybe were placed, I don't know, speculation, I don't know. If we were placed in a different place or a different time, we may have different feelings about those things. I don't know. Some people may say the desire for freedom is universal, which I tend to agree with actually, but I'm just making thoughts. Maybe I should have written down notes for this. I'll probably come back later and do another video on this topic. But okay, so two of the other things that I wanted to talk about on the list were wonder and purpose. So when I say wonder lies within the constraints, like there is a world to be had within any set of within any set of boundaries. One of the boundaries that I decided to constrain myself to is an African identity. So focusing on the depths of experience that are within the confines of people that have historically resided on the African continent, and being very intentional that this is my focus and I'm not that focused in trying to learn about cultures outside of that context, except for the West, as much as like it has influenced my life by virtue of being here, growing up here, being formed by here, and yeah, all of these things. But in terms of like my intentionality of wanting to learn like a culture, I have constrained myself to the African continent, which is huge. First of all, like the African continent is huge, but specifically Igbo society, because that's my heritage, that's my culture. And when you finally make a decision and define like the boundaries within which you are going to exist and the constraints you are going to subject yourself to, there is a whole like there are infinite things to be discovered. Excuse me, there are infinite things to be discovered within like that boundary. Like there's so much that I'm going to learn about life as an African, life as an Igbo person, by constraining myself to learning about what it means to have a human experience within these boundaries. And I think my generation can get so focused on the fact of being constrained that we miss the depths that are available to us when we subject ourselves to certain constraints. But maybe the key differentiator here is the choice to be constrained versus being forced to be constrained. And I am a huge advocate of human agency. So I would much rather prefer for people to choose to subject themselves to certain boundaries and constraints than it being externally imposed on them. As adults, kids need to be constrained. But yeah, I think the human choice allows you to see these things a lot better, allows you to see the beauty, allows you to appreciate art and excellence, and to see the wonder that comes within the things that we decide to live within. Oh, I feel like this video could have gone like a lot better. I'm so like philosophical and so metaphysical that I rarely talk in like concrete experiences that people have. So sometimes I feel like it can make it hard to relate with the things that I'm talking about. But maybe this will reach the audience that will understand it, and they will perpetuate the ideas in a way that makes sense to a wider range of people. Yeah, one thing I am going to try and start doing is think, because I just get on here and start recording just because I have limited time in my day, so I don't have a lot of time to sit down and plan what I'm going to say in these videos, especially now that I'm trying to be intentional about recording every day just to get used to it. I don't have time, but maybe later when I start putting out videos weekly, I will have more time to like develop these ideas and stuff like this. Okay, and then the other one was purpose lies within the constraints. So I think it's the same thing in terms of like feeling like you have like your life is oriented towards something requires certain, you have to be bounded in order to feel that. Otherwise, the possibilities are endless and you can get trapped in the sea of possibilities and feel like there is no direction because you could be going anywhere. But you need to bind yourself within constraints to feel like you have a direction. Like a road has a direction because the road has boundaries. You know where you are going because there are certain boundaries that you are not going to cross. So I think that's really important, people in my age group, but just people in general, to know that if you're trying to go somewhere, if you want to feel like you have direction in life, you have to make certain decisions about where you are going to bind yourself and then follow like in that direction. And honestly, like binding yourself to certain like boundaries and constraints frees up a lot of mental energy and time because you don't have to make as many decisions. You don't have to ask as many questions. You don't have to be as aware about certain things because you trust the boundaries that you have set for yourself. Now, in the process of setting your boundaries, you have to be conscious about, you should be conscious about that and aware of that because the boundaries that you set yourself within are going to shape you as a human being, and they're going to shape the decisions that you make, and they're going to shape the life that you pursue. But once you do make that decision, trust the boundaries and trust that beautiful art, excellence, purpose, and wonder can all be found within those boundaries because they can. Um, okay, was there something else I was gonna say? And then I think I said this like earlier, but once you have found the beauty within the boundaries, I think it's always good to stay within them and to be grounded within them. But then you can start maybe extending your hand out a little bit and see like what's out there and how it connects and how you can bring it in. Or start talking or start looking outside your boundaries to people that are within others and having a conversation that can help each of you within the constraint that you've placed yourself in. And oh, excuse me. I think that's where more art comes from, is when you are aware of the depths that are available within the boundaries that you hold, you're able to not just like take what's on the surface and take it to another place, but you're able to bring from the depths and offer to somebody else who hopefully also has gone to the depths of their own boundaries, brings it up and offers it to you. And then beautiful exchange happens, beautiful interactions and reciprocity and all of these things. So, what is a takeaway that we can get from this? Boundaries are not inherently a limit of your freedom. If you find yourself being bounded by something, whether or not it was by your choice, try and think a little bit better of what you are becoming a master of in this situation and what you are learning a little bit more about life, that if you were to, or if you get the opportunity to then leave these constraints, you'll be able to offer to somebody else. And try and find, no matter how dark the situation may seem or how confining it may feel, try and find the beauty within the constraints that you are in that may be hard for other people to notice because they are not in those constraints. Yeah, I hope this made sense. Genuinely, I feel like I sound crazy a lot of the times when I talk, but I hope this made sense to somebody, and maybe we'll come back and do an update so it's a bit more coherent. But thanks for stopping by.